I think the hardest thing that we all face is it's the misconception. The elephant in the room that we don't want to really acknowledge is that cold email is seen as spam. Lead generation is seen as spam. It doesn't matter if I'm the CMO or if I am an SDR. What I'm doing is perceived as intrusive, and it's an absolute waste of the recipient's time.
This is Super SaaS Bros with Cory and Jayde. Let's jump in. Hey, welcome to another episode of Super SaaS Bros. We are your hosts, Cory and Jayde Silva. Today we have an awesome guest with us who's been working in the lead generation, outreach, and contact enrichment space. We have James Milsom, CMO at Hunter.io. James, nice to have you on the podcast, man.
It is awesome to be here. This has been a long time coming, and yeah, can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, it's been a little while. I know you kind of went through some moves from the UK to the US, so happy we were able to finally land you here today. But we like to always start our guests off with a little bit of a scenario of, hey, you know what? You are going out into town, going to the city, you're hopping into an Uber, and the Uber kind of looks back at you, and he's like, so what do you do, man? What's your answer?
Personally or professionally? Two different things. I'm Batman. No. So what do? I am the head of marketing at Hunter, which is a lead generation platform. And I have an awesome job. I get to conduct research. I get to talk to people like you guys, and I get to promote Hunter. Really simple. Great job to have. Couldn't be happier.
That's awesome, man.
Lead generation, cold outreach. How do you get into something like that? What sparks the niche of you just want to dive into that area of expertise?
You know, there's a long story and a short story to this. I think I'll land in the middle. So I went to college and studied law, ended up getting 2 law degrees and a boatload of debt. And I realized pretty quickly I didn't want to practice law. What I wanted to do was use the skills I had. And the most adjacent industry or job I could find really was marketing interns. Like when I say I went to get the coffees, I put the flyers on the shelves, I went to I lugged around all the stuff for events. Like that's what I did.
My guy.
And in that, right? You gotta earn your stripes, right? So, I got really close to the head of marketing, a guy called Gordon Schofield, and really cool dude. He kind of connected me with our marketing manager at the time, and she was an ex-journalist, and we didn't have any email marketing support really. And so they wanted me to look after email. Well, it turns out, and I think every marketer listening to this, and you guys will get this, there's a difference between email marketing and doing cold email outreach. And I pretty quickly found that out. I was trying to, I was like coming up with this idea of like a newsletter, sending out to these random people and getting absolutely nowhere. And so I fell into cold email. I fell into lead gen and sort of built everything else around it in terms of like content marketing, product marketing. Like I use that outreach. I still do it today. Outside of doing podcasts, I still do outreach to people, and I talk to them. I just have a conversation. There's no better way as a product marketer, content marketer, a founder, any sort of role that involves trying to sell something or build relationships. There's nothing better than completely going cold into a conversation and finding out pretty quickly if that's the right person or not, whether that's email or face to face. So yeah, I fell into it, Jay. I would love to tell you it was deliberate, but fell into it.
That's awesome, man. What's been the maybe the hardest thing when going into this field? Because I feel like there's a lot of maybe misconceptions, myths about like cold email marketing and stuff like that. Because we've done it ourselves and we've kind of experienced it ourselves too. So I'm curious to see what was kind of the biggest hurdle that you've kind of faced as you kind of worked your way into the role you're in now.
I think the hardest thing that we all face is it's the misconception. The elephant in the room that we don't want to really acknowledge is that cold email is seen as spam. Lead generation is seen as spam. It doesn't matter if I'm the CMO or if I am an SDR. What I'm doing is perceived as intrusive, and it's an absolute waste of the recipient's time. One of the things that I have continuously had to face every time that I've kind of moved up in my career is this idea of, well, marketing only does inbound. Marketing only does the CRM. Marketing only builds out the marketing automation system. But when you work in lean organizations, which is predominantly what I've done, not massive headcount, successful businesses, but like there's not a lot of resource in terms of headcount, you end up having to learn these new skills. And so because I was always interested in this idea of lead gen and outreach, like one of my best friends is an SDR. I managed him, a guy called Alan, like really, really good SDR. And what I think that people don't appreciate before they go into this is actually you've got to be willing to overcome this misconception about being intrusive and spammy. And then you've also kind of like, it's an ego thing. You're going to get rejected so many times that rejection feels like acceptance at some point. So like when you get that one time you get the lead in the first couple of outreach attempts you have, that's fantastic. So yeah, I think it's a mental hurdle that keeps coming up and up and up, and it doesn't matter what sort of business you're in, it's always going to be there. You have to sell. We don't want to call it selling, but you have to sell, right? So like, I would say I sell myself in terms of my work. I make sure that I'm always helping Hunter with our outreach and helping our users. I've sold myself pretty well to my wife, clearly, because she's my wife. There's something that clearly I'm capable of doing that I'm sure listeners right now are capable of doing as well. But you have to acknowledge and accept that you're going to have to win over some hearts and minds in that process.
James, how do you go about making sure that you're not playing this game of whack-a-mole when you're doing cold outreach, right? Like, I think for a lot of, like, especially in my experience, sending out cold emails, trying to find the right positioning, trying to find the right message, right, to increase your open rate, to increase your response rate. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Dean Jackson at all?
No.
Yeah, Dean Jackson, he's got this idea of a 9-word email, which is essentially a great,
Right.
and
Right. Yeah.
like it's just like keep it simple, simple scales, right, and like try and not get too, I'd say like salesy, spammy. Man, I feel like I'm digressing because I got so many questions. But what would you say, like, how would you advise someone to and help them with making sure that they're not playing this game of whack-a-mole in terms of like ABCD testing, right? Like making
Right.
sure they're driving the right message.
Right. Well, I mean, I have been in the shoes of our listeners where I've tried to run multiple A/B tests, and first and foremost, that shit is impossible to do exactly the same time across like 16 different email campaigns. Like, that's insane. The first thing that you need to be doing is really thinking about outreach in two ways to avoid this whack-a-mole situation. The first part of it is more about getting to the dance, right? So it's all about the techniques. How are you making sure that you're getting verified contact information? How are you making sure that you have set up your domain to ensure that actually your messages can be delivered? How are you ensuring that any personalization tokens that you may use are not A, incorrect, and B, being used in such a way that like it's become almost passe to kind of see like, Cory, I hear you're interested in running podcast outreach. That's the technical side of it, like making sure that you have all these boxes ticked, verified data, strong domain, everything's technically set up correctly.
Correct.
And then the other part of it, in terms of like using your resource the most effective way, is look, it's 2025, 2026. If you're not using Gen AI to help you to generate copy based on a very strong core message, and that's as simple as I am A, you are B, I help you do X, Y, and Z. You should trust me because of these reasons. If you're not using that plus Gen AI to help you generate copy, then you're missing a trick, because that's going to help you to test quicker. The other thing to consider in all of this is great messaging plus great targeting. Like I said, verified contact information. But once you've got to the dance, you can only dance with so many people. You can't dance with everyone at the club, right? Like there's only so many people you can dance with. So you need to be really, really focused in, okay, if I only have 10 opportunities, and this is just pulling a number out. And by the way, the data shows that campaigns with less than 50 people in one campaign, it's more successful. Like the reply rate, which is the goal here, it's a conversation. Sorry?
I said, no, that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, it's clearly like when you have less people, then you have more of an opportunity to be focused in how you're talking to them. And it doesn't mean, to your point, Jayde, it doesn't mean, writing a complete and utter treatise on whatever your topic is, right? Like it could be as simple as 9-worded emails. It could be as simple as putting some stats in front of someone, creating some sort of lead magnet to introduce this that's relevant to this person. which is backed by people just like this recipient taking part in a survey or providing data. If you are more, if you're tighter in the targeting that you do, you have a smaller list, then you could do multiple A/B tests. I wouldn't recommend more than probably 3 at any one time. But if you focus on 50 people in a list, like that's not a bad hit rate in terms of how much people you can reach in a short amount of time. So it's not necessarily about avoiding sending to a lot of people. It's making sure that if you are going to send to a lot of people, you do it in a very thoughtful way, which
Right.
goes back to this elephant in the room thing, which is, yeah, it's spam if I'm sending Jayde and Cory exactly the same email with crappy personalization
Yeah.
that is just going to annoy them.
Right. Quality over quantity. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Quality over quantity. And so, okay, so like even with Six Summit, right, us being an AI first software agency where we build custom software solutions for small businesses, I find this across many software agencies, maybe many marketing agencies, where their ICP is just like they don't really have one. It's just like, here's the solution that I can create for you.
Yeah.
I can come in and either audit your business, increase your marketing, or I can build you custom software, whatever it is. And so the messaging becomes quite vague because it doesn't matter what you need. If you need something, an automation, some more marketing, whatever it is. What are your thoughts on like niching down versus not niching down versus like and helping those types of agencies?
Yeah, great question. I think, look, if you are talking to everyone, you're talking to no one.
Okay.
That's just the truth. The second that you try to talk in, using broad strokes, it's the second that you're not going to be able to paint a beautiful picture. You're just going to have like some paint on a canvas that means nothing.
Right.
So I challenge people who say, well, I want to go broad. It's like, okay, well, yes, you may offer services that are essentially, we're going to help you build your dream, right? But there's going to be some commonality either in the persona of the person that you're contacting or the sort of solutions that you're building. Maybe not in terms of the output of that solution, but maybe it's the amount of resource that's available from that person for you to help them to build something, for instance.
Oh
So
yeah.
I recommend trenching. So you may have this broad ideal customer profile, which is any founder who is on the West Coast that has $500,000 in terms of revenue every year. Great. That's not an ICP.
Right.
That's a total addressable market. We've still got to go to Sam and got to go to Som, got to go to your sellable addressable market, and then your smaller market, which is where you really get into the trenches. The trenches are where like you're now going to be able to talk at a more specific level to use cases. Use cases is where people see value. People don't see value in the, oh, I helped this company. They see value in looking at your message and seeing a mirror being held back at them. That's
Here's a problem
kind of
I
what I
have.
would say.
You can solve
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and even if you don't have a large client base or you're just starting out from the beginning, there are ways to get around that. And the way to get around that is remember that cold outreach is not selling. Cold outreach is having a conversation. The
Right.
first email, the second, third, add in some social if you want, maybe even some retargeting ads, great. But it's all about getting to the conversation. If I look at this in a very linear way, and that this email is designed to get Jay to actually allow me to pitch services straight away, like that's not going to work.
Exactly.
Where's the reason to trust? There is none. And the best emails I receive are the ones where they share something that is either timely, and Lord knows being timely with outreach is near impossible, so you got to do a lot of research. But that goes back to this less than 50 people argument, where like, yeah, if I only have 10 people that I want to go out to, 10 founders on the East Coast who do healthcare tech, I'm gonna have enough time to probably research them on LinkedIn to build out enough detail to then provide them with very valuable insights based off my work. People shy away from that though, and I don't know if it's a laziness issue. I don't know what is behind that, but it turns out that when you take time to be more thoughtful in your research, you'll get people who will want to respond. Like clearly, the research we've done shows that 67% of decision makers want cold email first and foremost. Then it's LinkedIn. Then it's cold calling.
They want
So
cold email? Is that what you said?
yes, yeah, they want to receive cold email. But here's the crazy thing: 97% of cold emails go unresponded.
Right.
Yeah.
There's this optimism, and then there's this like really harrowing reality, which is the majority don't send. good messages. So you have an opportunity to join that very small portion of people who are successful. How to do that isn't like, it's not a secret how you can be successful, and it doesn't require multi-step systems. It doesn't require an expensive subscription to something like Clay and having all of this data coming into one system. It just doesn't. It's your heart and it's your brain. And if you can compare, if you compare those two things with writing a good message and researching, you should be successful. There's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, something that especially with us, our whole business, really, I'd say 95% of our business has come based off of relationships that we've built, referrals, word of mouth, things like that, right? Really the warm introductions.
Yep.
And so we've recently pivoted, maybe a couple months ago, we've pivoted into this idea of like, let's stop doing cold outreach with emails and stuff, start going to events and really try to just like build relationships, because of the nature of our business, we're finding that that's where we're able to capitalize, right? I also find that like the purpose of cold outreach, at least for me, was I just want to get them in my calendar. Like I just want to get a call with them. They can see my face. We can have a conversation. The relationship is built. Being behind an email is very hard. Obviously, it's possible to like have that. And so I always think like cold outreach, the whole purpose of it is not to sell. It's just to get face to face with you, and then it kind of continues.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been a journey to figure that out, because I think we went through this like high volume game, right? And then hyper personalized, and we've gone like from like each extreme, right? But I'm really like, I love that you're saying that, like, it's just put some heart behind it. Just be human, right? Like, it doesn't have to be a list of 10,000 people every single month, right? Like you said, like maybe there's just a list of like 30 to 50 people that you need to hit, and you could spend time researching it. But a lot of people want I'd rather just like, slam like 10, 15,000 emails in a month and hope for the best, right?
Yeah, and if we were all very honest, and you've both been honest, I have been there too. I have had a lazy streak, and I'm not saying that your choice was lazy, but like I've had that streak where I'm like, 20,000 people, 20,000 marketers who may be interested in, I once worked for an employee benefits company, and they had a SaaS solution. Yeah, like 20,000 HR managers across the UK. Absolutely, they're going to want to hear from me. Like, no, they don't. They don't. If I took the time to actually think about what is it about this product that, and this was a harsh lesson, what is it about this product that they would find interesting, then I would have had more success.
Yeah.
It's something that I recently, so at Hunter, we've always led with this idea of ideal companies first. Think about the company and then think about the contact. Find the right company, then get the contact.
Okay.
And we just at the end of September this year, we introduced an update, which is like, I used it this morning. I was having my morning coffee, and I was trying to think like, what is the time saving I'm going to be able to find here? So in short, the old process in Hunter was that you would find your companies, and then you would find the department, and then you would find the contacts that you want. But you would do it either company by company, or you would do it in a more generic way, where you kind of upload a list of company names, and it would give you a result of contacts. Anyway, this update now allows me to specifically target SDRs, for instance, just using the job title. I get exactly the ideal company profile, but now I also get the list of people I specifically want. Why does that matter? Well, it means that in 15 minutes today, I was able to build out 10 50-person lists that were specific to SDRs, BDRs, RevOps, campaign managers in 11 to 100 head count businesses in the US. Like, it took 15 minutes. It was super targeted. Yeah. It's going to be used for outreach, and it's much more effective than going out to like tens of thousands of people. I've just taken the time. 15 minutes is all it took to find those people.
To really niche it down.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Hunter, because I'm very curious, because we've all gone through Clay, Apollo, all those guys. Talk to me about the difference between why someone should pick Hunter versus anything else. And then I'm really curious about the data enrichment piece too, and how that all happens. But let's dive into the first question.
Yeah, so I think, look, if you are a salesperson, it's quite likely, because of their go-to-market motion that Apollo have adopted in the last 2 years, you are likely using Apollo. You've likely used Apollo and you have loved the functionality in terms of sequencing, but you've always felt like there's something wrong with the data. It's not very clear to you that the data is probably not going to be actually Cory Silva or Jayde Silva at company domain name. If you're using Clay, you're more likely to be an agency. You're more likely to be into a sophisticated system. And what you want to do is benefit from having a waterfall approach of bringing in all these different data providers who will help you to eventually get to exactly the right email address that you want.
Right.
So one of them is positioned more so for salespeople, and the functionality there in terms of running campaigns, multi-sequence campaigns, fantastic. And they're really pushing the envelope in terms of the salespeople running outreach. Clay, again, fantastic. Like if you look at them, I think they're like a tricorn now. They're valued at an incredible rate. There's a reason. It's a brilliant product, but it is like my 7-year-old niece trying to get into a McLaren F1,
Right.
when she's used to kind of going around in the pushchair, or maybe not the pushchair anymore.
Yeah.
Like
Barbie wagon.
you need, right? Thank you, Barbie wagon. Yeah, that was probably the better way to describe it. But the point being, like, Clay is fantastic if you have really specific needs or you're going through this complex system, which works for you. But guess what? Like, there's added cost. You're going to probably have to hire a Clay expert. I'm not sure what name they use. They might be a Clay pert, something like that.
Yeah.
There's an added cost to that. And guess what? The data that's being fed into there are people like ourselves. So that leads me to us. So if we've got Apollo for sales, we've got Clay for large marketing and sales agencies. It fits in perfectly for solopreneurs, bootstrappers, founders, marketers, PR professionals, you name it. Everyone else who's doing outreach. And it turns out there's a boatload of people doing outreach that are not sales, and they're not marketing and sales agencies. Like, there's a whole load of people who just have this idea that they want to connect. Yeah. They have multiple campaign types that they're running. It's not always about getting a sales conversation going. It's finding investment for their startup. It is getting the next hire. It is
hiring, distribution, all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got it, Jayde. And so with Hunter, what we have always prided ourselves on since 2015, like we are the OG in the room. It just turns out that, as other people come into the space and they've targeted different people, it just, the noise has increased. But Hunter has always been about verified data. Now, why does that matter? Well, verified data means that you're going to get the right email address. Every piece of data in Hunter is verified. It's then enriched with information about the company and the contact, things like technology is used, hiring that's gone on, any sort of LinkedIn information that is publicly available. It's all in there. And the great thing about it, and I can say this not because I'm the CMO of Hunter, but I can say this because I've used Hunter. I've used Apollo, I've used Cognizant, I've used Lemlist, I've used Instantly, and they all have their advantages, right? Mm-hmm. With Hunter, what I've always found is that the data quality is above everyone else. And we've had benchmarks, and because we're part of the Clay waterfall experience.
How many data points do you guys, like in terms of the data, if I wanted to just like my software wanted to hook into you guys, right? You guys have all this enriched data if I want to play with you guys. Like, right. How many data points do you guys give us?
It is... We don't have enough time in this episode for me to go through every single one.
Cool.
But the point is, you can go grab our API right now. You can try it for free.
Yeah.
And you can get contact enrichment, company enrichment.
Are you guys enriching it yourself, or are you guys using like a People Data Labs or something? How does that work?
It's ourselves.
Hell yeah.
We have we have an incredible data team. We just came back from a retreat in Barcelona for a week where we all gather.
Nice.
Twice a year we gather in these beautiful locations. Sometimes like, what is my life? And I spent some time talking with the data team, and they're working on some great things about benchmarking.
Yeah.
If we're talking about verified data meaning something, and I hope your listeners walk away with this, like that one thing, you need to verify your data, because that's the number one thing that's going to kill your outreach, is reaching the wrong person. Then you're going to fall into spam traps. Then you're going to, run amok with email service providers. But if verified data is important, as well as the depth of data that we have, the other thing that's important is actually being able to benchmark different providers.
Yeah.
We show up consistently, whether you're looking for SMB data or enterprise data. we're in the top 3 for clay. Like that is something that is verified. But we're in a position now where we're going to start doing it ourselves and start to benchmark, because above all else, what I want to do is make sure that everyone makes informed decisions, not just who can shout the loudest, but actually who's shouting the right things. And for me and for Hunter, that is, you need to be able to trust the data you're using to be able to do outreach simply and make growing easy. Like anything else is noise, and that's part and parcel why we also focus on email data. We don't focus on phone data, it's email data, because that still remains.
Yep.
Whether you're on email outreach or using that email data for retargeting or scraping event lists, Jay, like you said, going to events, email is still the #1 way to reach people in a cold format. It just is. And until we get to a position where something surpasses it in a good way, which is not LinkedIn, by the way, guys, like that's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Email will be the #1 thing.
Will be the #1. James, you have been one of my favorite guests that we have had on this podcast, and I am truly grateful for you being able to jump on. I know it was a stress getting us on here, but we actually got on. Look, I would love to have you on a later date, and we can really jam out for an hour and just like really dive in. I have like so many questions, and I want to be conscious of your time. So, dude, really thank you for jumping on the podcast here. Guys, if you guys need to find James, he is at hunter.io. We'll put everything in the description below, all your like socials and all that fun stuff. Guys, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, guys. It's been another episode, and we had the pleasure of speaking with James from hunter.io. And go on, leave us a 5-star rating, review. Don't know what it does, but I think it helps. And I will see you guys in the next one.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Super SaaS Bros with Cory and Jayde. We'll see you next time.